They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son.
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views.
And everything else in between.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, gays and theys, because we're that kind of show.
What kind of show are we?
We support everybody.
Right.
We love everybody around here.
And you are?
My name is Alex,
And
aka
I'm Norm,
Son,
aka Son, and I'm Norm, aka Daddy.
and you are listening to Daddy and Son. I want to thank you for tuning in to today. It's me production today, and I'm so excited this week to kind of talk about what I want to talk about today is EVs.
Mm.
As you know, I drive one. I love them.
Electric vehicles for those who aren't
Yes.
who aren't autonomously
For those
oriented.
of you who are not
into cars.
top gears,
Well, there's some bottom gears listening to us, so we're inclusive here.
good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Are you a bottom gear?
You could
Yeah.
also be an automatic or a standard. Anyway, we'll get more technical later, I'm sure.
That's we'll get a little bit more technical later, but I kind of wanted to just explore the world of EVs because this week I went to the auto show,
Yeah.
the international auto show, and
Toronto has a great auto show, doesn't it?
it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get to see everything because
You never do.
it almost it's like going to Disneyland.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
You really need to. But the sad thing is, a ticket only lasts you for one entry.
Oh,
And I really wish I could go back with the ticket to another day. Because if I could, I would, because I didn't get to see as much as I would have loved to have seen.
yeah, you have to pick which part of the auto show and which vehicles and models you want to see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, while there were some bits that were underwhelming, there were a few standouts, and I will get to that in a moment. What I'm thinking about in the world of EV, the latest technology, some things that I think people need to know.
Like the
if
article
they're
I
gonna
s-
be
like you-
getting EVs, exactly, looking at stress tests, a few points to mention, and as well as
some political commentary,
some
I'm
political
sure.
commentary around EV for sure, because it's me and this is what I
Well,
do.
we could not have a podcast without some
We couldn't
son's
have a
political
Daddy and
opinion.
Son without that, without putting at least without me pulling my political opinion in it. And I know for months you didn't want to discuss politics at all.
I like
but
politics.
here we are.
There's so much of it right now, you can't get away from it.
I know it's like I
Even the hockey game is political.
I was literally about to say what an interesting timeline we're living in.
By the way, I'm a mind reader, I should tell you. See, I know what you're going to say, so I said it first.
Is that right?
Yeah. So who won last night?
Norm the Oracle.
Who won last night? What
Canada
happened?
won, of course.
Yes, wasn't that great? Oh.
It was amazing.
Oh.
I was watching the game while I was at the gym. And not necessarily because I even understand how hockey is played. I don't know shit. But I will tell you this. There's nothing that motivates me more to run harder on the treadmill than watching hot guys slap a ball around ice.
It's a puck, sweetie. But that's okay. I played both ball hockey and real hockey, and it's the same thing.
I guess, right? Puck.
Mm-hmm.
And they were cute. They were really cute. I must say, I'm not rooting for the US, but the US had some really cute guys on their team. Really cute guys. It was motivation for me to really, get my cardio, get my breathing in a nice rhythm, and press out on the treadmill.
Well, breathe a little faster, I would imagine.
Made my heart stop.
Well, I'll tell you, when that winning goal was scored, funny enough, I was watching it at home then and said, when the Americans took the lead, I turned it off. I said, oh, we're going to lose.
Oh yeah, when they were 2-1.
Yeah, and I went and watched some other TV, and then I dozed off for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up at 11 o'clock and said, all right, I'll check the score.
It was
It's
so
probably over.
surprising because even down to the last 8 minutes,
Uh-huh.
they were still 2-1, and then Canada just took a quick turn, and then they went into overtime. It was just weird to see. But again, I don't know anything about hockey, but again, it was just exciting to be at the gym and just be into that energy.
And everybody was watching the game too. Those who were there, the other three people.
Yeah, and they were so captivated because it was the first time in a long time I've seen so many dicks hanging around, but it's because people just forgot to put a towel on. And,
You must love to watch hockey at the gym then.
Listen, anytime there's a major hockey game going on, I know where I will be.
Well, 2 podcasts ago, we discussed that topic. So if you wish to know Alex's opinion on gyms and stuff, check it out.
Oh, how's your week been?
Well, it's good. I mean, last night was the highlight because when Connor McDavid scored, I howled and yelled and screamed. I'm sure I woke
He's
up
the
3
hottest
neighbors.
one of them.
I was impressed with his skill and the beauty of the pass from Marner, by the way, a Toronto player.
Mm-hmm.
Marner had 2 assists in the game. Anyway, it was great. It's been a stressful week for Canada because we're getting dumped on by Mr. Trump. We really are. And for us to win that game was just, and the way we did it was really excellent.
It was a well needed win.
It was. You're right.
For morale.
Yep.
For the heart of the nation.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
And the pride of the nation. It was necessary.
It had, I'm sure, a real positive psychological impact.
Yeah. But who would have thought? Who would have thought of the things that would unite Canadians? It would be this. It would be Trump. Who would have thought? Because whether you're green, red, purple, yellow, red, white, blue, NDP, CPP. Sorry, there's no such thing as CPP here.
Well, Government, there are places where it is quite legitimate to talk about.
OCP, Green P.
That's the parking lot downstairs. Get your P's right, will you? And your D's. Anyway.
Everybody's so united, and it's beautiful to see.
Yeah.
It is beautiful to see. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we need it because we're in for a look at what happened. For those of you that are interested in the stock market, the last 2 or 3 days have been shitty.
Oh?
Yeah. I mean, the markets have lost about 1,400 points in 2 days because of Mr. Trump. And you know what? It's going to be a weird next few months. And it's mostly happening in the U.S., but it's going to spill over here. So we need some good entertainment. We need some good energy out there, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some escapism.
Mm-hmm.
And some good escapism. I said to someone, remember back in 2024 when the biggest thing in the news was Mr. Beast scandal with Amazon Prime, or people were talking about, people's homes are flooding out, and that was like the biggest news. And or people were, the biggest news in politics was Sleepy Joe.
Yeah. That seems like ages ago.
Bring me back to those. It seems like ages ago. Bring me back to those days.
Time marches on.
Bring me back to those days. I will take a Sleepy Joe anytime over this nightmare. I really would.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next little while because everything is getting turned upside down.
It also had me thinking, speaking of turning things upside down.
Don't tell me you're thinking of leaving Canada.
No.
Good.
Not yet.
Oh.
No, but I'll say this. while I've never voted for Trudeau, not once, in any of the terms that he served. And I will say that we have painted him to be a very horrible person.
I don't know whether horrible is the right word, but
no.
How about ineffective?
Social media and the media has painted him to be like the worst thing since Katrina.
He's over his head.
And they will say, oh, he's stupid. Oh, he's this. Oh, he's that. Oh, he's blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying that he is the greatest, but after seeing leadership from Trump, I must say that I appreciate Trudeau a lot more than I did even 2 months ago.
Well, he's certainly more consistent. It might not be consistent in the direction you want. The trouble with Trump is you really don't know when he says something whether he's going to do it. And the millstone around his neck is this Musk guy. And he is going to cause problems for Mr. Trump. Take it from me. It's gonna happen eventually.
Well,
I think,
or maybe the other way around, but we'll see. Because I think Musk to me comes off as someone who is an opportunist, and
Yes.
he will get his coin. He'll get his ducats from the U.S. Treasury and then cut. Because he doesn't have to be in the U.S. He doesn't have to. He's gonna cut right back to where he came from. And I don't understand how the U.S. is making this alien for all intent and purpose. And not because he looks like a fucking alien.
And his hair's always weird. He doesn't
He
comb the
does.
back of it.
He
You
looks
ever
like
notice?
a weird.
Yeah, it's kind of.
He's
a nerd. He's a nerd. He's a classic. He's a rich nerd.
Honey, I'm a nerd. He's an alien.
Yeah, but you're not a rich nerd.
With a... His face looks like it could wrap around a horse.
And you're much better looking.
But let me not go into Elon Musk's looks. But I don't understand how they have this alien literally running America.
Can you
and
say
talking about America first?
Can you say $240 million?
Well, I guess.
That's what he paid Mr. Trump to get elected.
I guess.
You know.
When you put it that way.
Anyway, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, before we get into that, I must ask, what are we drinking today, Daddy?
We're drinking a lovely red Spanish wine that is in the kitchen, and you told me...
Monticello Rioja.
Oh, yes. Not quite as good as last week's, but this was $2 off, so I went for it.
I mean, in your retirement ages.
I'm watching my dollars.
Especially when we can, because the decoy is, it's Napa Valley. You know, especially with the tariffs afoot.
Yes, we should be buying as much California wine as we can before it gets cut off at the LCBO. That's the liquor store in Ontario, folks, for those of you who don't know.
So, you know, that's fully understandable.
Are you enjoying your red wine?
I must admit, it is good. Not as great as the Napa Valley decoy. Not as great, but it is nice. It's full. Very fragrant. I'm getting mature notes. Lovely wine. Folks, we are drinking a 2019 vintage. If you want to check it out at your nearest liquor store. And on to today's main segment.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went to the auto show, as I mentioned earlier. Did you get a chance to go to the auto show?
Not this year. I think it was about 10 years ago that I went there.
Oh, that's a while.
Well, it was between cars. I was trying to pick out a car, and I
Yeah.
went and you know, I don't see a need to go to sort of... But it would be interesting to see what's going on. I probably should next year.
Yeah, that's why I like going, because I like to see what is out there. I like to see what is new, and it's like going to the Consumer Electronics Showcase.
Yes.
Or
Consumer
CES.
Electronics Show in Vegas?
Yes.
Yep.
It's like going to that to see what's the latest and the greatest.
Yeah.
But just for cars.
Yeah.
Ironically, the last time when I went, which was 2016,
Still a long time ago.
still a long time
Yeah.
ago.
I was there in 14.
So almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's when I learned about my last vehicle, and I went in February, and by August of that year, I ended up buying the vehicle.
That was the funny looking car.
Yeah, it's not funny.
Well, I thought it was.
It had For those of you who knows cars, it was a Nissan Juke.
Joke? Oh, sorry, Juke. Sorry.
You can't. And you know what? I must admit, I saw the vehicle and I saw the back and I was like, oh, she's sexy. And then I went around to the front and I was like, the designers over at Nissan, they are a little bit bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit crazy and I love it. I love it. It had so much character.
Was that the vehicle that you slipped down the ramp and you thought with your snow tires you could go down the ice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We don't have ice tires in Canada. We have snow tires. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's the same exact one. And it did not save me. It did not
No,
help.
no. Snow tires are not ice tires, but we digress.
But after 8 years with that vehicle, I decided, you know what?
You had that for 8 years?
8 years.
How many miles? How many kilometers?
It was 108,000 kilometers.
That's 12 grand a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's granted that, because, you know, a lot of people may ask, well, you weren't really doing much during the pandemic. How is it that you had so much? But you have to remember, I have driven with that vehicle to Vancouver and back.
You're crazy.
To Alberta and back twice.
You're crazy.
And to Winnipeg and back once during the pandemic.
You want to talk about I hope you had radio or Sirius satellite.
Who listens to radio these days?
Well, you know what I mean. You had music in the car.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. These days, when you're doing a road trip, you have to, you know, have a whole playlist set.
Yeah.
DJ that you put together from before you even leave the house.
Oh, yeah. No. You have to. Absolutely. But in Toronto, you listen to 680 News for the traffic reports. I mean, that's...
I'll even go as far as to say, and I've been saying this even like as an example about the Dems in the U.S. It's like, stop doing radio shows. You need to do like what the Republicans did. Go on podcasts.
Yes.
Go on
that's
YouTube
the new
shows.
That's the new communication. That's
new
the way
mode of
news is.
Communication. That's how people get their news. Nobody is listening to radio anymore. So you going on a little radio interview, you're preaching to the same people. You're not reaching new audience. But again, I digress.
Mm-hmm.
So
the auto show.
The auto show this year was really interesting.
Was it electric?
There was a lot of electric vehicles. At least in the side that, because I went to the south side first. Sorry, the north side first before I went to the south side.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really get to see much, as I mentioned. But one of the main focuses for me was EVs, because I bought an EV last year, April, when I switched to my vehicle, and I decided that I wanted to try to see what living in the future would look like.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, did you consider a hybrid rather than a total EV versus?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I did. And what made me decide to get the EV per se was I really wanted to commit I really wanted to commit to what life would be like
when you get stuck on the highway with nobody to help you and you're out of electrical.
Listen,
oh, sorry.
That is a whole other story.
Well, we're going to hear that one, I'm sure.
That is a whole other story. Maybe we'll get to it. We may sidebar to that. But you're absolutely right. The good thing about hybrid, and for those who may not know about hybrids, do you want to explain to the people what a hybrid vehicle is?
Well, it's very simply, you can either use electricity or you can use gasoline.
Or both.
Or both?
Yeah.
Both at the same time?
Yeah, there's some you can
Now,
use
that
both
I
at the
did
same
not
time.
know. I thought it was one or the other. But the point is, it's kind of a backup in case you're
one of the other runs out.
Yeah.
That is correct. I did think about it, and I said to myself, the point of me deciding to go electric was so that I don't need to go to gas stations anymore. It's so that I don't
Fair
need
enough.
to go to the Costco with the gas station and sit in the line
Oh,
anymore.
I won't do that anyway. Let me ask you a question. Oh, I had a question I was going to ask you. It'll slip my mind. I'll come back to it. But
All right, just raise your hand when you I'm playing. Just chime in with your question when it comes back to you. And I like I said, I really want to commit. When I put my mind to something, or when I say I'm going to do something, as you know about my personality,
oh,
I
you
fully
do.
commit.
I totally agree.
I fully commit and immerse myself into something that I said I'm going to do.
That is one of the great gifts you have.
Thank you. And so I decided to torture myself and get an electronic vehicle.
I know what I was going to ask. Did you consider getting a Tesla, by the way?
I did initially.
Maybe I should ask, what was your decision process about which vehicle you bought?
That's a good question.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure that I got a vehicle that would be popular on the market, which means that I would be able to get parts for it readily.
Right.
And it wouldn't be overly expensive.
Okay. Well, that kind of puts Tesla down the line.
And B, I also wanted to make sure that it would be something that wouldn't take forever to ship to me. Even my Nissan Juke Nismo, when I had that accident where the front end got damaged, I was out of my vehicle for 3 months because they had to ship that specific part from Japan.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Particularly because I had a special color. I had special accents on my vehicle, and that particular accent, they needed to ship it all the way from Japan. So I had to wait 3 months, and I was without a vehicle for that entire time.
That's a lot of EV charges.
So, if you have a vehicle, let's say if it was, for argument's sake, a Honda Civic.
Bingo, you'd have it tomorrow.
You'd have it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the parts are so readily available, even if it's an old Honda, even if it's past its end of life. But because it's such a popular vehicle, the demand for the parts are so high, so they're continuously being manufactured. The Juke was not as popular of a vehicle, and so the parts for it weren't as readily manufactured or available. And I wanted to make sure that my next vehicle, I would not be in
have that problem. Okay,
right?
that's a good reason. I just wonder what your thinking was. Yeah.
I also did consider Teslas, but as Musk acquired Twitter, I refuse to call it X. So fuck that bitch. I refuse. So as he acquired Twitter and he started inserting himself, on his rise to oligarchy.
He did to Twitter what he's trying to do to the U.S. Federal Public Service.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A hostile takeover.
So you're saying you decided not to buy a Tesla partly because of Musk?
Yes.
Wow.
He was a huge turnoff to me.
Wow.
And I decided that I didn't want to support anything that he had a stake in. And I know my little dollars,
Well, I'm not too objection. I know I buy some brands of certain things where they have owners that have some controversy, but I'm not quite impacted by that the way you are with cars.
Oh, no.
Said he's showing his Hilfiger underwear over the...
We don't support Hilfiger in this house. Take it off.
Not here, honey. Okay.
It's like
we're talking cars now.
It's like my best friend. She drives a BMW and she's Jewish. And I had to ask her. I'm like, "Are you sure about that?"
Really. I never thought of that.
Yes, it's like, girl, what are you doing? And she said, "Oh, well, back in 2010, they apologized publicly."
And they have a Holocaust museum.
BMW?
No, Germany does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm just like, I don't know if it's enough for me to forgive.
Okay, so you decided to buy what did you get?
So I decided to buy a Mustang Mach-E, which is a Ford.
Yeah, Ford
Mustang.
Okay. And where do you know where they're made? Are they made in Canada or the U.S.?
It is made between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S.
Okay. Yes, that's a good example of why tariffs on automobiles are ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a good point.
There are certain parts.
It goes back and forth.
It goes back and forth.
Yeah.
that are made in the U.S. Certain parts are made in Mexico. Electronics are predominantly done in Canada on the Canadian side. And so the vehicle does travel back and forth
Right.
multiple times before it's complete.
So you were in a position where you were going to have a car that was North American based,
Yeah.
and parts wouldn't be an issue in terms of and service and all that stuff.
Right, rather than having a foreign import.
That's reasonable.
Which is ironic because when I'm in the UK and my friends are like, "What are you driving now?" and I say I'm driving a Mustang, and they're like, "Oh, you're driving a foreign," and I'm like, "No, I'm not driving a foreign, but it's foreign for them."
Foreign for them, yeah.
But it's foreign for them because domestic for them would be like the BMWs and the Audis. That's domestic for them.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when you're over there in next week, next month, make a point of finding out what they think of Audis, because that's my car, and I totally love it.
It's ironic because most of my friends, I don't think any of them drive Audis. One drives a Porsche, the other one drives a Mercedes, and the other one drives a Volvo. But no.
Well, at least you have friends that have
good
taste
Audis.
in cars.
But
I'm
now I'd be curious,
and you drive
why
a
no
Ford.
Audis though?
I don't know. You could ask them.
I'd be curious. But so that was my reasoning behind that. But even though I just got a vehicle, I was still interested to see what was latest and greatest. I also wanted to know what was the latest in EV technology. And I also wanted to know what new was coming into the market down the pipeline or was going to be roadmapped for 2026, 2027. Like I said, some things were underwhelming. A lot of the vehicles were pretty much the same. The only thing different were that they were throwing in, rather than heated seats alone, most of the seats now had massage features.
So they consume more electricity.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is kind of dumb.
Which is kind of dumb.
And so the question then is, well, what have you done to improve the charging efficiency in order to accommodate the additional?
Precisely. And one thing that one thing that I realized is that in terms of battery life, there wasn't really much of a dramatic change to be seen or in range. There wasn't a lot of technological advancements there. However, there was one particular brand that stuck out to me, one particular company, and they're called Lucid. Now, this is not a commercial. This is
Lucid?
Yeah, Lucid.
How do you Lucid?
Lucid. This
I
is not a paid
I have never heard of that
shout
brand.
out, but shout out to them. So Lucid is a company based out of California. And it actually is one of the top engineers from Tesla who left Tesla because he didn't really quite agree with Musk's vision and business ethical practices. So he left to go start his own company. And hence was born Lucid. I was looking into their financials. They did not do very well for 2024, the 2023-2024 fiscal year. In fact, they lost millions of dollars. But I think it's because they're not well known. But one thing that I will say about Lucid is they're promising.
I've never heard of them.
I would buy stocks in that organization. I think they're very promising. The technology that they have is cutting edge, well above anything else on the market. And I'll explain. They have a vehicle that is called the Lucid Air, AIR, Grand Touring. And that vehicle is next level. When I saw the vehicle, oh yes.
How much?
Norm is putting his fingers together.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
We're gonna get there. When I saw the vehicle, I nearly jizzed myself. I was like, that's the type of vehicle I want to be fucked in. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Does it have lie back seats? I presume it does.
It does. It does.
Check that in the brochure.
And
do they have brochures anymore?
There was
Never
no
mind.
brochures.
No, okay,
No.
it's too bad. When I was buying cars, they had brochures.
That was a thing that once upon a time. That is true. I'm old enough to remember when they gave out brochures for vehicles. They don't do that anymore.
They do.
You're
If
absolutely right.
if you're about to close on a vehicle, they have a brochure probably. But anyway,
what's the point if you're only going to close on it? How are you supposed to make a decision?
I will show you my 1983 Honda brochure.
You still kept that?
The next time I see you, I will bring my car brochures from the 80s and one from 90, I think, and 86, I forget.
Oh wow!
But yes, no, those were they're very informative. But you're quite right. You get all that stuff online now.
You get it online.
Anyway, I interrupted you. You're telling me about the Lucid,
So-
which is a brand new name for me and most people listening.
I was not familiar with them. Colston, who I went with, knew about the company, but I didn't. But Colston is kind of like a big nerd, and he loves tech, and he loves all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the questions that I would ask throughout the night, everywhere that I went, whether it was Audi or BMW or Wrangler, Alfa Romeo, wherever the company is, the question I'd always ask is, what is the most exciting feature about your vehicle that sets it apart from the competition? Part one. And then my second question was always, what is the latest security feature that you can boast about, or security technological feature that you can boast about for your vehicle?
Security,
yes.
That's an interesting question because most people would wonder about safety, but you're asking about security. Interesting.
I'm asking about security. With most vehicles, whether it's fully electric or not, do have a strong computerized component to it, which means that it makes it hackable. I want to know what you're doing to secure the cybersecurity of that vehicle, so we don't end up with a Hyundai situation or a Jeep situation where people are able to hack your vehicle to either remotely steal it, or hack your vehicle to stop the brakes from working, or hack your vehicle to remotely open the locks so that they can steal your vehicle, like they do with famously with the Lexus RX 300. So I need to know what do you boast about?
And what kind of answers did you get? And what?
I got some really interesting answers. Some didn't know anything at all as it relates to the cybersecurity side, which was sad. But for me, that simply told, if you didn't know, it simply told me that you probably don't have anything that was unique to share, exciting to share.
Or the salesperson they had on that day at the show wasn't briefed or didn't know the answer. But probably somebody would. It's just that depends who you get at those places, because they borrow from different dealers to staff those booths during the show. But I think it's a great question.
Oh, absolutely. And I think moving forward, anyone buying a new vehicle, it doesn't matter if it's an electronic vehicle or not, that is a question you need to be asking your dealership.
That is really, really good point. I like that.
That is a question.
And I haven't even thought of that.
And moving into the future, especially, because here's the thing, Norm.
Mm-hmm.
Technology as it exists today is the worst it will ever be.
That's a good way of putting it. That's actually a really neat. That's very profound.
It's the worst it will ever be.
You've just given me a very good theme for my next article, which is
I'll take 20% cut. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you do. You're drinking it right now. Well, you're drinking 10%. Anyway.
So yeah. So Lucid Air Grand Touring, amazing vehicle, and again. This is not a paid sponsorship. This is nothing. I just really am a huge fan of this vehicle. It is definitely something I aspire to drive, and it's something that I would love to own for myself in the future.
Is the auto show open tomorrow?
Yes, it's going until Sunday.
Sorry, carry on. So you're going to say?
Horsepower, 816.
800 horsepower? Who needs a car that powerful?
From 0 to 100 in 3.1 seconds.
Does it have wings too?
Might as well.
Yeah.
The G-force on that alone, I was looking at test driving videos, And my mind was blown. But that's not even the most important part for me. Because one of the things that my line of questioning was always around efficiency. Why? Because we live in a very cold country, and with cold temperatures or sub-degree temperatures comes a decrease in battery efficiency for electronic vehicles.
Right.
For most vehicles, upwards of even 40%.
That's huge.
Which is huge.
So it limits where you can go and how far you can go.
And how far you can go, right? And this does define your buying power, your purchasing power when you are looking at an EV, because you have to consider, do I have access to charging? Where are my usual routes? Do I like to go out of town frequently? When I'm going out of town, is the usual routes I'm going on have electronic charging? Is my destination going to have a charging?
Honey,
do I need to have enough to go and come?
Your out-of-town trips are jet fuel oriented, so am I right?
Don't do me so dirty.
All this concern over electricity, and it's jet fuel. I want to make sure there's enough.
This is why I drive an EV, so I can offset my carbon footprint.
Oh, baloney.
Duh, that's the reason. So, range 800 kilometer.
On one charge in regular weather.
Optimal. In optimal.
Even in winter, that would be, say, 500. Like that would.
I know. Even like Colston's jaw was on the floor. Like
that's incredible.
It is incredible.
So why aren't they near the top of the market?
Incredible, because they're not well known. You didn't even know who
I'd never heard of them.
I'd never heard of them until Wednesday.
The auto show? Okay.
Until I went to the auto show.
Wow.
I'd never heard of them. And get this. You can get up to 300 kilometers from just 11 minutes of charge. 300 kilometers. That's how much it takes me to get from 40 minutes of charging on my vehicle. 11 minutes.
Okay. Now, how about price point?
Now, I remember looking at the guy and I said to him, and shout out to him, he was so cute, and he was off the family as well. Because he was
a committee member. In other words.
He was a community member.
Oh, okay, committee member, but community member. Yes, gotcha.
Community. But he was definitely, because the Lucid, the brand, their logo is a bear.
A bear?
A bear, yeah.
Oh.
So Colston was like, so have you seen any other bears around here?
I'm sorry. I had to laugh at that one. It's a great line. And what did he say?
So when we left the booth, Colston was like, so my nickname for him shall be Panda, because he was Asian.
Oh.
I was like, Colston, you can't say that.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's like, you can't say that.
I must have a coffee with Colston and get caught up.
Because he's such a cute little bear. And the guy actually was off the beer. He's Asian, but he was also off the beer. Because he's short, he was chubby.
Okay.
And
you knew that's what the type he would like.
Yeah.
And what was his answer to that? Are there any other bear?
We were talking because he's like, oh, did you see the guy over on the Jeep with the swoop in his hair?
He said that?
Oh, yeah. We
love it.
We were gossing.
That's great. I'll bet you his colleagues were looking over and saying, what are those guys talking about over there?
He's selling the shit out of that car.
That's for sure.
Shout out to him. Shout out to Panda. But anyhow, so as we were discussing the features and everything, I said, how much does the vehicle cost?
Yeah.
He said, I'm not allowed to discuss pricing. I'm like, what do you mean you're not allowed to discuss pricing?
That meant it was more than Tesla.
Oh, I'm going to get there. Colston said to me, honey, if you have to ask what the price is, it probably means you can't afford it.
Absolutely.
So his boss came by, Panda's boss came by, and he said, this is my boss. He can probably answer that question. I asked the boss said, we're not allowed to discuss pricing, but if I can take your number and we can have an associate call you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'd love that because I'd be really interested in going.
And did you tell him you were an EV driver now?
I did tell him I was an EV because he asked me if I'd be interested in buying a new vehicle. I was like, what are you doing here? I said, I just bought a new vehicle, but I just bought an EV. Unlike my previous vehicles, I didn't buy this one outright or finance it. I leased it because I'm new to EVs. I wanted to see what my life would look like.
And they would be happy to take over your lease and put you in a new vehicle. So you are what's qualified in the sales world as a qualified lead.
Oh.
Qualified in the sense that you are a relatively, you are worth talking to. You're someone that there's a possibility that you could actually purchase or lease one of their vehicles. You're a current owner or current user. So you were. So have you had a follow-up conversation with them yet, or have you had a chance to? It's probably just.
So I actually got a call from them today.
No kidding.
And the trim that I was looking at is a whopping.
Let me guess, $140,000.
Honey, the lowest trim is more than that.
Get your law degree first.
You're cold.
Cold.
You're not even warm. You're cold. You need to go up, honey. Up.
That's why they
try again.
250.
Up again.
Oh, that's nuts.
$358,000.
I would love to know how many they sold.
That's a good question.
At the show, or how many really qualified leads they got. Even if they got 2 or 3, probably worth it.
Yeah, when I tell you,
because I never knew about this. I've never heard of this car before.
It is definitely the type of vehicle I aspire to drive. Is the type of technology I hope that all their competitors will. After I saw Lucid, I went over to Audi to look at the IQs and all the newer Audi electronic vehicles. And I have to tell you, Lucid made the Audi IQ look cheap.
Well, it surely wouldn't be as expensive. By the way, folks, for those listening, I drive an Audi A4 2020. Love the car. Low mileage, 42,000 clicks. I just bought out the lease. I've got it now for.
2020. That's the height of the pandemic. Of course,
I bought mileage. I bought it in 21. Actually, that's funny.
So the height of the pandemic,
and we might get to ride in it next week if you get a chance. But so obviously that's something you looked at. But what other things at the show impressed you?
It made everything else extremely underwhelming.
Yeah,
because nothing else at the auto show came close to technological advancement. The technological advancement that Lucid had.
But what's interesting is why have we not heard about this? Like 800 kilometers on one charge?
And you also have to they are a fairly new company as well. Which is why when I saw that their financials weren't doing the best last year, I said to someone, that will change. This is a company I would invest in because that will change.
Well, just so that we could let our listeners know, the Trump administration has not terribly looking favorably at the EV industry. They've removed some incentives, and it's going to impact plants here in Canada, actually, that we're going to build for that industry. So,
inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
Well,
I think it'll happen.
The next part of this conversation. But you know what? I'm going to refill my glass And then I'm going to touch on that because that leads to my next part of the conversation.
All right.
Because I just wanted to talk about that little bit of what really stood out to me at the auto show, but I also want to talk about incentives around EV.
The political part of our chat
political part
tonight.
of it.
Yes.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back.
So I wanted to just touch quickly on some of the things that people should be considering.
Right. You've decided you want to buy an EV. Now, what do you do when you want to drive it?
Here's the thing.
Is that right?
Incentives.
Oh, okay. Incentives to buy it in the first place.
Incentives. Okay. No, after you've decided that you want to buy it. And here's the reason why incentives, because a lot of people may think incentives should be okay before you buy the product, but incentives can even work after the fact. And I'll tell you why incentives work after the fact, because some of the incentives are not just on buying the vehicle itself, but it could be on the accessories of the vehicle. Such as an example, in British Columbia, if you buy or install a charging station for your vehicle in your home, you can get a rebate for the cost of installing that charging station into your home.
After you've done all the layout and everything.
Correct.
Yeah, I got it.
And this is a part of their British Columbia's efforts for people to make their homes greener. So if you want to do, example, in British Columbia, if you want to make your home more energy efficient, there are tax breaks that you get for making your home more energy efficient, like putting solar panels, batteries, stuff like that. You get money back for doing so. And so it incentivizes you to not only reduce your carbon footprint, but there is an initial kickback in it for you. We had something similar to that here in the province of Ontario. However, that was taken away after almost 3 weeks after Ford gained power as our premier in 2018. However, what did remain was Ontario's promise, or our answer to the collective bargaining for the Paris Agreement, which was considered or was coined as the Cap and Trade Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the Cap and Trade?
Yeah.
Okay, great. For those who are listening who are not, Cap and Trade just basically or the aspects of it that is relevant to what we're discussing today just mean that if you had a gas vehicle before and you traded in your gas vehicle, you would get a rebate for that gas vehicle towards your new electronic vehicle.
It was liberal climate change giveaway money.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
how's that for a summary of?
Oh my gosh, you're such a conservative. I wouldn't call it giveaway money.
I'm a policy person.
Giveaway money. And I think by ending this incentive, it's tied to that Ford ended, and he ended this incentive just last month, and a lot of people don't know that this happened.
So when was the incentive ended? In 2018 or just recently?
So this was something separately.
Oh, okay.
And this particular incentive ended in January.
And probably because the government said it had it for a few years and planned to have it for a few years, and then it didn't approve it in its previous budgets for any further funding. It still could get renewed, potentially.
Well, I hope so.
You know.
Here's the thing. Ford believes in a market-driven approach to EVs and the electronic vehicle market. He believes that we shouldn't be funding it unless people are buying electronic vehicles. My thought process is a lot of people aren't buying the electronic vehicles because we don't have enough infrastructure for it.
Well, now now incentives and infrastructure are different. Okay.
That's true.
I totally agree with you about the infrastructure thing.
That's true.
I think regardless of the incentives, people can see the value of EVs if they knew they could charge the damn things anywhere they want to go.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But one of the things, one of the
Criteria.
the criteria, thank you.
Yeah.
Of cap and trade, of the bill was that portions of the monies would be used to go towards infrastructure for
I see.
electronic vehicles.
Okay.
And this is why it was important to have it in place. Because yes, you were getting something back for trading it in, but what you were getting back wasn't anything significant. And I could tell you.
In terms of your own personal wallet. But
in terms of your own personal
wallet. But it was
wallet,
going to benefit the infrastructure to some extent.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
In theory.
In theory.
Mm-hmm.
In theory. And I think with pausing it on incentives on both sides, whether it is in generating revenue for infrastructure for electronic vehicles or incentives to purchase electronic vehicles in itself. Yes, you're saying that it needs to be market driven, but much like anything else, nobody's going to be attracted to a particular market if the market itself is not attractive. This did bother me a little bit, but not too much, because I believe that the gas market is going to eat itself over time.
What do you mean by eat itself?
It's like the snake that eats its own tail. Because eventually there is going to come a time where oil is going to run dry. Because it's not an infinite resource.
My hair will not only be not white, it won't be at all. So I'm not too worried about that.
Well, good for you. Hopefully, if I live to get to your blessed ripe age,
listen, there's plenty of oil out there.
And be vibrant. I don't have to worry about that. But it's not a finite resource.
Well, no, it's not.
We have to think about energy in a renewable and sustainable way. We just have to. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for gas. We need it for airplanes. We need it for long distance trucking. We need it to run buildings. But we need to start thinking about how we can be.
And that is the advantage of the perspective of the sons of the world. They are thinking about the future.
Not the sons of the world.
Guys like me, the daddies who drive Audis that run on super premium gas at $2 a liter. Although, I just got my Scene Shell card for my Scene points just the other day, so I have free gas for the next couple of months.
Oh, nice. We love that for you.
That's sustainability, in my opinion.
Even people complaining about the carbon tax. You're complaining about the carbon, the little cents that you're paying on your gas, but I'm pretty sure you're liking that $200 check that you're getting.
Yes, I've received it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what the carbon tax thing is $140 every 3 times a year, at least whenever the program runs out.
Oh, I'm sure people are liking those little checks that you're getting, though. They're loving those checks.
They're nice, but the
you
carbon
can't have
tax
one without the other.
But the carbon tax increases costs throughout the economy that I'd be happy to trade in my $140 if we could lower the costs of other things in the economy.
Such as?
Oh, everything.
Like?
Well, anything that uses energy.
Exactly, but think about it. If you let us just take away like heating, HVAC, like take away that. Let's use one of the most common things, filling in petroleum at the pump, right?
Which is where most people identify.
Which is where most identify it with. If you are someone who is a casual, average, everyday user of vehicles, and you drive an energy efficient vehicle, how much tax on your petroleum are you paying? because people think
A
it's
lot.
it is
30, 40 cents a liter at least. 40, 50 cents a liter. And the carbon tax asked about, I don't know. I don't know the numbers because I haven't looked at them lately. I'd be interested to see what the breakdown is.
The carbon tax is only 11%. It is only 11%. That is not that much. At the end of the day, what you are getting throughout the year in those checks supersedes the tax that you would have paid, what you have gotten back from what you have paid at the pump.
But the additional cost finds its way into the cost of inputs of products that you purchase. And those businesses aren't getting those tax breaks. So in effect, you could be paying more as a result of the carbon tax, even with the $140 rebate. The point is, we're getting into economics here. And, I love to talk economics, but our listeners may be falling asleep at this point. But your point about buying an EV and looking at the EV market is good. I think it's great. The question is this the right time to do it? Should I consider a hybrid instead? I know I have a colleague of mine had her car give up on her in front of her house a few months ago. They ended up buying a hybrid. Yeah. She wasn't prepared to make the risk that you did going all the way to EV.
And it is a huge risk. I can tell you, last summer I was on a road trip from Killarney to Sudbury, and I was all the way down to 2%. I turned everything off in the vehicle. I turned the climate off. I wound down the wind. I turned the radio off. I drove in complete silence till the only thing I could hear was my heart beating at the speed of light. Because
God was speaking to you then.
I was scared, and by the time I got to Sudbury and I got to where the panel told me that the control panel in the vehicle said to me that where they had a charging station, it was only one single charging station in Sudbury at the entrance of Sudbury.
A lovely metropolis for anyone that's never been there. And I say that with great seriousness, as
he's
you can
being
tell.
Extremely conservative.
I think the word is cynical, sarcastic, but go ahead.
And there was a Hummer there charging their vehicle. So not only did I have, and granted, I had to drive back to Toronto.
But you had enough once you recharged to go back to Toronto.
No, I had to stop. I had to charge again in Parry Sound.
Oh, I usually stop for a coffee in Parry Sound.
It only got...
You stop for electricity, I stop for coffee at the McDonald's.
Tomato.
Yeah. I know the exit that you went to because I think there's an...
That's the one where the McDonald's is.
Yes, and there's a Shell station right next to it.
Yes.
Yes, there we go.
That one.
Yes.
That one. So it's over by the Canadian Tire.
Yeah, what a small world, yes.
Right? So it is scary. So you have to be prepared for those moments. And EV is not like a regular vehicle where you can just put gas in it and be on your way. No, you will have to get it towed. And that in itself can be taxing and a hassle.
Well, it's also the time required to plan. And, can I do this? Should I make other arrangements? You shouldn't have to be thinking about that. You should be able to get in your car and go.
Well, if your battery dies, you can't even enter your vehicle because you can't open it.
And that may be the best recourse if you rather that than get stuck on a highway, right? But that's your point is you're still going to continue to drive your vehicle.
But what I will say is it has improved my organizational skills. My planning skills is A1 right now. A1.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah, because you have to plan everything.
Yeah, you've got it.
You can't just jump in your vehicle and go somewhere. Yeah. You have to be intentional about your usage, and it makes you more mindful about being outside. With that being said, I will say this about Ontario specifically, about where we live. We still have the federal rebate, and I mean this is for everybody, of the $5,000. Sorry, it's called the IZEV program.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you still
if you buy an EV vehicle.
If you have an EV vehicle. Oh. So when I bought mine, I got $14,000 off, which was quite useful because my vehicle cost $89,000.
Holy crap, that's more than mine.
So
I drive an Audi.
Yeah, the Mustangs are expensive, but it was very useful, very helpful. So when I took that $14,000 off, which was the the federal rebate, the provincial rebate, and also the extra money from, because I traded in my old vehicle, so the extra money from that, I didn't pay as much. But I would say to anyone who still is considering probably getting an EV for their next vehicle, the federal program still remains. I mean, as long as we still have a federal government. When we don't,
or whatever incentive program is in place. If you're in the U.S., they're being removed by the Trump government.
There's that too.
Yeah.
So you may want to look into what is
But
going
you've
on
got to
in your
look at the
neighborhood
incentives or lack thereof as part of your decision
as a
making.
part of your decision making.
Absolutely.
It is something that you should consider because it's the future.
Son, you're doing it the way a daddy would do it.
It's the future. It's not something that at the end of the day, it's not something that we can ignore for long.
No, I agree.
I believe in the next decade,
the
options will be limited, and it's coming.
It's coming.
The future is here.
And if anything, it's going to be a cost thing too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it really will be. So.
Oh, absolutely.
And the technology will improve. The performance will improve. Look at how computers.
The battery life will improve, and it will definitely be more competitive. So we won't have to pay, $300, the price of a house, for a vehicle with an extended battery range. But with that being said, that's what I kind of wanted to bring into our consciousness today. Kind of wanted to discuss that. That's something that I'm really passionate about. That's something I love. I love the tech. I love fast cars. Vroom, vroom.
You like fast men too.
That
sometimes.
Just saying. With that being said, any last words you want to give to the audience today?
No, I wish you a very safe and fun trip. You're going to be off for a little while, so we'll have to take a pause, but all the best.
That is true. We will be back in April.
When hopefully we won't have this damn snow on the ground.
Hopefully that will be going through.
It'll be gone.
We'll be going through April showers by then, by the time I return.
Yes.
From Europe. But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode. If you have made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. And if you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That is DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
And daddies, be kind to your sons.